first of all, I wanted to show at the fair. And the fair at that time was mostly tents. And we were in the main tent. We won some sort of honorable mention or something, like something that they give you for bringing something in that's unusual. And that was a very unusual experience. I was telling everybody about the mission, and it was pretty impressive because it was in its original state. It all been put together, and it looked pretty darn good. It really looked good, and everybody was admiring it. And how long did it take to build this? And I had these pamphlets that I passed out, and I never ended up with a pamphlet myself. I think you had one. There was a man that came by, and he didn't look as though he belonged, because this was definitely not wine country. It was cowboy country. The big ranches were here, 40, 50,000 acres. And he kept standing in front of the model, and then he'd walk on, and he came back day after day. And finally he looked at me and he said, this model was built with a sign. He knew he had the pamphlet in his hand. This model was built by patients at the state hospital. And I said, it was. And I didn't say yes, sir, because I have a revulsion against bureaucratic authority. So I said, yeah. I said, was. And so he went on, and he came back, and he said, was it built with state materials? And I said, not really, not at all. I said, Monsignor Sullivan, who's on the Board of Supervisors of the hospital, put $300 into the patient benefit fund, and so that not a penny of this is state property. It was a patient benefit fund given by the Monsignor of San Juan Bautista. And he said, well, it was bid on state time. I said, hardly on state time. It was, you know, they're patients. They're not exactly employees. I mean, you can't, they're not building license plates or anything. They built something for therapeutic reasons. And he handed me his card, and he says, this does not belong to anyone else. It belongs to the state. I will have a crew here tomorrow to dismantle it and take it to the Rotunda building in Sacramento, where it will go on display. And I thought that was a terrible waste of all this time and energy to have the Monsignor's dream not at least realized it, you know. It wouldn't have been bad if he'd have made a compromise. He said, can we have it for 6 weeks or a month or 2 months? He said, no, it belongs to the state. And that was pretty definitive and positive. And so that was it. I made my mind up then. At that moment, I looked at him in my mind. I said, you're never going to get this model. So I called up a friend who has the Basenti winery over here, and he was maybe 30 years my senior, but he made really good jug wine, and I was drinking jug wine at that time yet, and any kind of wine, and so I said, I need a flatbed truck. And he said, how long do you need it? I said, just overnight. He said, well, what do you move at night? I said, well, I don't want to move it at night. I don't have a choice. I've got to take the model to San Juan Bautista. And he said, okay. So he gave me the flatbed truck, and we dismantled the model, put it on the truck, and I drove. And it took me about 6-7 hours to get there. It was a long trip with a flatbed truck and a model that I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go fast, because every time I added a mile or two to the speed of the truck, I heard the more rattling going. It was an old truck too. So and the rest, you know, it got there. The night that I had decided that the mission had to be stolen, I actually came back to the hospital and got a couple of men. This was in the middle of the night, and we took it apart, and we put it on a flatbed truck. And I had serious misgivings about getting it there at even 40 miles an hour. Would it fly off? Would the ropes cut it and break it up in pieces? Because the model by itself had a great deal of integrity in terms of strength. But if I knew that if I sat on it,